everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way, and this week's project is another fall scene. So I just love these fall colors, the yellows and reds and oranges, so we're going to continue on with that theme for another week, and I'm going to show you how to put this cute scene together. Super easy. It looks hard, but honestly it's not. You know that these projects are all easy and meant to be done in just a few minutes. So we're going to get started on this. So in order to get started, we're going to need a few things. So this is from Project Series 9. This is the Tuscan Villa, this one right here. And we're just going to use part of this. So we're not going to use this whole entire villa. We're just going to use a section and only half of it. So I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to use that Tuscan village. We're going to use this little tree for the background, this little barren tree from Watercolor Project Series 6. We're going to use the tiny little foliage from the Blooming Birdhouse set. I love this little guy. I use it all the time. So we're going to use that tiny little foliage. And then from the new sets, we're going to use this little batch of leaves right here. So just this part. And in this one, the big tree. So this big tree right here, that's in the new barn set. So this is the old barn mini set. We're going to use that. And then from our foliage and flowers, we're only going to need a couple of things. Just the tiny little grass, this one. And then from the flower set, we're just going to use the little daisies. Okay, so let's get going. We're going to start out by stamping the basic image. So that would be the villa. And we're going to use the sepia. So we're going to set this back and we're going to use fall colors. So we're going to kind of hide it into the foliage. So we're going to use the sepia and we're just going to color part of it. We don't need this, this tower over here. And we're just going to color down to the first row of windows. So just the first row of windows, this little overhang over the porch, we can take that. And then we're just going to take all of this here. So make sure you don't ink this part over here or this below here. And we're going to stamp that right into the middle of our paper. Okay, just like so. And we're going to do one more thing because we're really going to put this in the shadow. We're going to take the fine tip of the number 86 and we're just going to do a little line right underneath the overhang. So we're just adding a little bit of blue to this. And we're going to just go ahead and darken in these windows. I'm just going to take this fine tip. I love this fine tip on the Marby pens because it's always wet. And I do love that about the La Plumes. Okay, so now we're going to dip our brush in water. And we're going to start by pulling this color out. And you can see we're getting a mix of color. Be really careful with this. You don't want too much color, but you want to drag that mix of color down. So we're going to pull all of this down just like this. And this would be the shady side over here. So just choose one side or the other, either this side or this side. And just choose that as the shady side. And that's the side that's going to have the majority of the color. And then let's pull some of this color down on the roof. We want the sun to be shining, so we're not going to make the roof too dark. And you can see all the mix of color now in this roof and in this structure just by adding that blue to it. Okay, we can come back in and darken that a little later too if we want a little more color, or come back in with that fine tip and do that again. So we can do that a little bit later. Okay, so let's get on to the next step. And that is to add the foliage and the flowers around it. But before we do that, we're just going to take a little pencil. So you can see in here, in the sample, we've got this house, a cottage sitting back on this bank. And then we've got the tree coming down in the foreground. So we're just going to pencil in these lines, just so it gives us a guide. And don't stress out about this part. So just put a little line in the front and then bring a little line down like this. And that'll sort of give you a guideline as to where your water's going. Okay, so let's add the foliage. So this is that little daisy. We're going to start out with the lightest color, which is the yellow, and we're just going to stamp this back in the background. And we can just add this wherever we want to. Love these oranges and yellows. Just so beautiful. And we can put as much of this in here as we want. So let's go on now. You don't even have to clean that off. Let's just go on to the orange. And just add a little more of this color in. And then we'll just go right into the red. This is number 89. Persimmon, actually. And we're just going to put a lot of this color in here. Just put a bunch in. Once that's done now, let's go ahead and add the water to it and just start blending out this color. You can see that the red and the yellow will all just begin to mix together. And just keep softening all of those little lines. And all the foliage is turning color, so even if you get it up high, that's okay. It's not just flowers. It's all kinds of trees and bushes and shrubs and everything else that's turning color. Okay, so go ahead and just keep blending all that color out. That's looking pretty good. So let's add some trees back in the background. So we're going to take these little bare trees and we're just going to add them back in here. So I'm going to use my positioner because I want to make sure that I get those in the right spot. So I'm just going to use my little tiny T-square. I'm going to ink this in the sepia. Be careful you don't push down too hard. Here's what happens when you push down too hard. These are tiny, tiny little lines, and so you don't, if you get too much pressure on here, so you get these balls at the end, and we don't want that. We don't want this really heavy image. We want just a light image. So just be careful that when you tap that, you're actually just pressing. You're not just, mashing that stamp into the paper. So we're going to stamp that into the corner so that we have a really good impression here. So this looks good right there. We'll put this T-square back and we'll just ink this up again. So just remember, don't press too hard, just an even pressure. You could do another one back in the back. And let's just take that little square and we'll do another one back in here. That looks good. I love this little positioner because it's so easy to take with you and it doesn't take up a lot of space in your drawer. And there we go. We've got our foliage in the background, our little trees, bare trees, and that looks pretty good. So we're ready to move on to the next spot. So let's go ahead and put our grasses in underneath here. And we're still going to use some green. Even though it's fall, it's really nice to just add a little color in here. Just a little bit of green. Just kind of brightens everything up a little bit. And if you look outside, I know where we live, there's still some green grasses. So let's go ahead and show that. And just pull that color out. Remember when you're stamping the grass that you're walking it along, so you're not just randomly stamping it here and there. You're walking it along. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just pull this color down. You can see this is all kind of blending into that pink and, red and yellow. So pretty. And we're going to stay right along this little pencil line, because that's where our water line is going to come. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our big tree in. So we're going to ink this one now, and I'm going to use my positioner again because I want to make sure that I get this in the right spot. Sometimes it only takes a minute to do that. Normally I don't like to use a positioner because I'm always in a hurry, but sometimes it's just worth it. When you get to this stage and you've gotten a lot done, it's just better to make sure. So I'm inking the branches now with the number 6 brown. And then the trunk. So the largest part of the tree, this wide section down here, we're going to ink with a sepia. And then we're just going to stamp it into the stamp positioner here. So right in the corner. And then you can see exactly where you want to put it. So I think that's probably really good right there. So I'm going to place this T-square back in there, and I'm going to re-ink this again. So remember the brown in the branches, and then the sepia on the trunk. And this one too, you don't want to press too hard. Just don't think about mashing it into the paper. Just do an even pressure. And you'll get a really good, nice impression. Okay, that looks perfect. Now before we add water to this, we're gonna go ahead and add the leaves because we want all these colors to blend together. So these are those tiny, tiny little leaves. This is from the newest set. This is from the little covered bridge set, these little leaves right here. I just love these little guys. They work so well. So we're gonna make sure we get them all cleaned off first. We're gonna start with the lightest color. This is the yellow. And we're just gonna kind of randomly stamp them in here. Just a few times. Just 1, 2, 3 is good. A few more. And then put some down here. We're gonna show some leaves kind of falling down by the tree. They were great for that. Just keep adding this in there. Let's change color now. So let's go into our orange. And you can use any orange. I'm just using a simple orange, number 7, but you can use any. A terracotta, just any color. If you look outside at fall and the leaves are changing, there's every color in those trees. So now let's go on to the red. This is a really dark, vibrant color, so we don't want to overdo it with this one. And we're going to get a little of this down in here too. Let's put a little bit more, maybe right in here. Okay, so we've got all those colors into the tree. So now we're going to take our brush and we're going to blend them all together. And really carefully take your time with this because you don't want to have everything just come together in a big giant cloud of color. So you want to still just touch all of these little images. All of these little leaves. We're actually softening all these little colors. It just turns out so well. It's so fun. It looks like it's taken you forever, but it's just the funnest, easiest process. And these little leaves just work great. Leave some white spaces. So don't get everything colored in. Just keep blending that. And then down here where we've got all these little leaves in a pile, do the same. And then we'll just drag this color down from the tree trunk. Looks pretty good. I just love how all these colors just kind of blend together. You can just keep going. You can make it softer and softer as you go out, or you can kind of leave it more defined, just up to you. I like to take the fine tip now of the sepia pen and just kind of, you know, go over some of these little branches, just so that you can see them really well. You can make some darker lines into the tree. But I think it adds a lot of dimension to do that. And that's what we're going for. We want things to look three-dimensional. We don't want it to look flat. Put a little more color underneath here. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now we've got our tree, we've got our landscape here. See where our pencil line is coming down? So let's put our water in. And we're gonna do that off of our palette. So we want a cool color because this is fall. So let's put a little cool color on the palette, and that's the number 86. And we're gonna take some of this color. And you wanna just keep your hands straight and just brush this color in. Just drag it over. It's okay to leave some white spaces in there. And just keep pulling that color over. Okay, that's about all we have to do. So now let's come in here with the grasses. Make sure that's dry. And we're just going to come over here where this hill is. And just kind of work our way down. And then we'll add our water. So always stamp and add water and just brush that color right over the blue. You can drag some of this color over too, where the green is. And drag some of it back here. And as soon as that's all dry, which doesn't take very long, we'll go back in and just erase those pencil lines. So I'll just take all of this out now. And that looks pretty good. You can see where the definition is here, where the shoreline is. So let's go ahead and continue with that blue and just add a little color into the sky. So we'll just brush a little of this color in here. Fall sky is a cool blue. And you can make this as dark as you want. And just add a little water to it if you think it's getting a little too dark. Super easy. And you can see I didn't really add any water to these little trees. I don't think they need it. I think they're fine the way they are. We don't want those lines to be too thick. So let's just leave them. And this side of the house, see how dark this is under here? This is really, really in the shadow. So we want to show that really, really dark. Add a little more blue on here. And that looks pretty good. I think we are about finished. One last thing, and that is to sign and date. Sign it, date it, put it on a card, put it in a frame, and give it away. You're going to really make someone's day. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.